All right, Caleb,
Yeah.
let's get focused. All right, so today we're going to solve radical equations and inequalities. Well, tomorrow we'll do the inequalities. Today we're just doing radical equations. You guys know what radicals are, right? We just had a quiz with a bunch of radicals on it. All right? So let's see what we need to do here. All right, so a radical equation contains radicals that have variables in the radicands. So there's an example. So the radicand is the part under the radical sign. So we're going to solve these types of equations. So here's the steps. Isolate the radical on one side of the equation if necessary. Right? So all you want on the left or the right side of the equation is just the square root part or the cube root part or the fourth root, whatever it is. Then you're going to raise each side of the equation to that exponent. Okay, so if it's cube root, you would cube both sides. If it's square root, you square both sides. If it's the fifth root, you take it both sides to the fifth power. Okay, that's step 2. That eliminates the radical, and you get a linear, quadratic, or other polynomial equation, and then you'll solve it using what you've learned solving equations. Okay? So let's go over some. All right, so here's a radical, is square root 1. On the left, is the radical part all by itself? No. What's with it? 2, right? So I have to move the 2 to the other side. How do I move the 2 to the other side? No, not subtract. Divide, right? This means 2 times the square root of x plus 1, right? So to move the 2, I have to divide both sides by 2. So the left side is nothing but the radical. That's what I want. Okay? To get rid of that radical symbol, since it's square root, I need to square both sides. All right? So what is the square root of x plus 1 squared? X plus 1, right? The square root and the square end up canceling each other, right? And what's 2 squared? 4. So there's our equation now. And we just solve that. Subtract 1, and we get x is 3. You should check. Okay? What's 3 plus 1? 4. What's the square root of 4?
2.
Times 2?
4.
Works, right? What will happen sometimes is your answer, when you plug it in, it'll give you a negative underneath. If it's an even index, square root, fourth root, sixth root, could you actually do that problem if it was negative under the radical sign? No. If it's odd, 3 or 5, 7, it still would be okay. So always check to make sure you're not getting a negative under that square root or fourth root or whatever. Okay, here we got cube root. Is that radical all by itself? No. There's a 1 with it, right? How do I move the 1 over?
Add 1.
This time we add 1, yes. So now I have the radical part isolated by itself on one side of the equation. Now, since it's cube root, what do I have to do to both sides? Go to the third power, cube them, right?
Yeah.
So the cube root and the cube end up doing what to each other? Canceling each other out, right? So what's on the left? And 3 cubed is 27. 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 is 27. And then we just solve that. So we're going to add the 9 and then divide by the 2. And like Caleb said it's 18. Let's check it, make sure it works. All right, go back to the original. What's 2 times 18? What's 36 minus 9?
27.
What's the cube root of 27? 3 is 3 minus 1, 2. Yeah, so it works. All right, so always check your answer and put it in the original problem. It doesn't always work. All right, what you get doesn't always work. Okay, those two make sense? Pretty simple, right? All right, so here's a problem, the same type of thing, it's just in word problem form. It says the mean sustained wind velocity. What's mean? Average, yeah. So the average sustained wind velocity in meters per second of a hurricane is modeled by that V for velocity of P equals that 6.3 times the square root of 1013 minus P, where P is the air pressure in millibars at the center of the hurricane. Estimate the air pressure at the center of the hurricane when the mean sustained wind velocity is 54.5 meters per second. So all they're asking you to do is put a 54.5 where this V of P is and solve it.
That's category 5. 163 miles an hour.
That's a pretty good one, huh? So is, I don't know why I put that for us. Is the radical parts isolated yet? No. What do I have to move? 6.3. How do I move the 6.3?
Subtract that.
Yeah, divide.
I'll just show you. That's what I'm yeah.
So I have the square root of 1013 minus P on the right. What is 54.5 divided by 6.3? 8.65. Thanks, Ted.
It was 8.6.
Thanks, Caleb.
All right. So at this point, what are we going to do? Square both sides. We all understand why we're squaring it. Right, the index is 2. If there's no number there, that means it's square root. So to get rid of a square root, you square both sides. All right. So we get 1013 minus P. What's 8.65 squared? 70? 75? 74?
It's 74.
Did you get it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. I knew it was in the mid-70s. Okay, so what do we do now?
You subtract.
Right, subtract the 1013. Which is a negative what?
938.17. Oh my god, that is low pressure. That's like brain smashing pressure. Thanks, Caleb.
So is it finished yet?
You gotta flip the sign.
Right, you gotta divide by -1, right? That's what I was trying to do there. Or like Caleb said, flip the signs. Okay? So that's the air pressure inside at the center of the hurricane. Okay? So, they might give you a problem in word problem form. Just substitute where you need to and solve it like we just did. Okay? I think that's all the examples I got. Maybe I have one more. Oh,
Over.
one more.
I'm just kidding, guys, come on.
All right, so there might be two since there's an A, there's usually a B, right?
No, no.
Yeah.
No.
So, is the radical part isolated there on the right?
Yeah.
Yes. So what do I do to both sides?
Square them.
Square. Now how do you square x plus 1?
You just do, right? You just do.
Okay.
You do the whole thing. You square. Oh, you can boil it or you do that one.
Right. X plus 1 squared means this, right? So like somebody said, you have to FOIL it. Write it twice. FOIL it, right? So we got x squared for first, outside 1x, inside 1x, last 1. So this becomes x squared plus 2x plus 1. So what kind of equation do we call it when it's got an x squared in it? Very good, Vincent. It's a quadratic. To solve a quadratic, we got to set it equal to 0, right? So we're going to subtract the 7x and the 15 to get the right side to be 0. Because we want the x squared and all of this together. What's that? Negative 5x minus 14. All right? So how do you guys want to solve that? You want to factor? Do you want to graph it? Do you want to quadratic formula? Okay, AJ, what are the factors of negative 14 that add up to negative 5?
If you want to do it. No. Nolan Davis said so.
You were right, negative 7 and? What times negative 7 is negative 14? 2, right. Okay? So what are the two answers?
7 and negative 2.
Right. Now, let's check them and see if they both work.
Oh, I think I'm right.
All right, what's 7 times 7 plus 15? 64. What's the square root of 64? 8. Is 7 plus 1 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good answer. What's 7 times negative 2 plus 15? What's the square root of 1? 1. What's negative 2 plus 1?
Just negative 1.
Negative 1. Does negative 1 equal positive 1? No, so is negative 2 a good answer? No.
Oh, shoot.
So when we plugged it in, we got a positive 1 on the right, but a negative 1 on the left. It's not a true statement, so that one didn't work. No, there's only 1 instead of 2. Okay? You understand that type? This one's just like it. All right? Okay, so when I square both sides, you guys understand why I'm squaring it, right? Because it's square root, right? If it was cube root, then I'd have to cube both sides, right? But usually this type will just be squaring both sides. So the left side's what? 2x plus 7. All right, remember, this means x minus 4 times x minus 4. First, outside, inside, last, gives us that. Now what are we going to do? William, what am I going to do?
I don't know. Your homework.
We got an x squared in it. So we got to set it equal to what? What do we set this one equal to?
0.
Yeah. So we gotta set it equal to 0. So how do I get 0 on the left? Yeah, subtract 2x and do what with the 7? How do I move it over? Yeah, subtract them both, right? All right, so combining like terms, that's what we get. Can you factor this one?
Don't look like it.
What are the factors of positive 9 that add up to negative 10?
Oh,
Negative 1 and negative 9, yes.
excuse you. Did we get Frank right there?
Okay, so what are my two answers?
1 and 9. Have some individuality.
Okay, so we get 1 and 9. Let's check them. What's 2 times 1? 2 plus 7,
9.
9. What's the square root of 9? 3. What's 1 minus 4? Negative 3. Does 3 equal negative 3?
No.
No.
Oh, shut up.
What's 2 times 9?
18.
Plus 20, or plus 7.
25.
Square root of 25?
5.
What's 9 minus 4?
5.
5.
It works.
Homework.
Okay. Works? There you go, homework.
Homework.
You even got time today. You could probably get it done. Good job. Thanks for your participation.